Another example of just playing gotcha and it not getting us anywhere is how the big event from today is being covered. President Trump and South Africa's president being in the Oval Office. What's making news? This.
Turn the lights down and just put this on. It's right behind you.
Shoot to kill. Yamaza. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer.
Death of people. Death. 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 Horrible death. These are all white farmers that are being buried. And he asks about a jet that was given. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
So the media is fixated on how Trump went after the president as a guest and that he is preferencing white Afrikaners. In other words, these are gotchas. Okay, I'm not saying President Trump doesn't warrant criticism on both counts. Criticize whatever you like. I'm just trying to point out, to expose that this dynamic is inherently a distraction from what actually matters, especially when we're talking about South Africa, okay? I don't care about how they got along in the White House or what the realities are for white farmers in South Africa nearly as much as I care about the fact that South Africa has deep and growing ties with our adversaries. South Africa is one of the BRICS group, okay? B-R-I-C-S, acronym. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Yes, Trump got what BRICS is wrong some weeks ago. I don't care, okay? He makes mistakes often. I got it. What matters to me, what matters to we, is this. BRICS is becoming a counterweight to our economy and to Western institutions. Notably, South Africa has been cooperating on nuclear energy with Iran. They've been doing more and more deals with China to create state-owned enterprises. That's the key phrase, okay? Why? Because that's communism. And the Chinese are trying to condition South Africa with money and with even political training to make them more like them. That is bad for us, okay? South Africa has hosted joint naval exercises with Russia and China. Recently, they welcomed Russian-sanctioned warships to its ports, okay? South Africa's president himself has had strong financial ties with Iran and the IRG, Iran's Islamic Republican Guard. Bad guys. They are a designated terrorist organization. Now, South Africa is, a fifth of our size, but they are the top economy in Africa. They punch above their weight militarily and are the sixth most populous country on that continent. So, why is Trump focusing on white farmers? I see it two ways. It's a wedge issue to pressure the South African president to kind of make the point that you have to do better and to exert some kind of control, right? And, yeah, I think there's some kind of play to a concern about whites being targeted that's a big MAGA talking point. Are white farmers getting targeted in South Africa? Apparently so. But there's a lot of crime, especially murders. You have more murders in South Africa, more homicides, than we have in America. And, again, they're only a fifth of our size. Now, is what's going on a genocide, as the president said? No, I don't think it qualifies as that. Does their race matter? Well, it seems to matter as much to the media as it does to Trump, okay? Well, why? Well, but you're not letting anybody else in. Well, pick your poison, okay? Do you want them to let people in who have articulable threats against them or not? Yeah, but not the white ones, only brown ones? Really? Oh, we're only talking about 59 out of thousands of Afrikaner white applicants that have gotten in, and they're getting due process. Wasn't that our beef? That he's not doing these moves with due process? Well, he is here. So why make it about race? Well, Trump's the one making an exception for whites. But are they being targeted? Isn't that the point, to protect people? Maybe he should protect more people than just the Afrikaners, but isn't it better that they get protection than not at all? And if you answer that question, no, I'd rather them not get protected, that's messed up too. Now, I get how the situation looks, but my point is, why focus on that when Trump is right to want to get to a better place with the leadership in South Africa? That should matter more to us. South Africa is not what it was under Mandela. Those in power have been moving more and more to our adversaries. Not to mention, South Africa has a lot to offer us with critical rare earth minerals. Trump took aid away from them. And you know, many people in MAGA at the time that they were getting rid of USAID were saying, you hear any of the countries complaining about the aid? No. Why? Because they don't even want it. What a waste of money. That was always BS. You know who wants it? The president of South Africa. And he also wants a reset. And there's an opportunity for America in that, okay? And that should be our focus. I'm not saying that Trump doesn't warrant criticism the way every president does, maybe even more so. But I'm just saying, who does that really benefit? Not you. That's my point, okay? The Biden stuff, this, all the gotcha stuff. They're still talking about Fauci on Fox. It's not getting us anywhere. Why? Because that's not their goal. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.